Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Tuesday?
Doing great. Looking forward to the show. We got some good topics. NBA playoffs really heating up now. Some very exciting games, and we're going to talk about some of them.
We're going to break down every single game. We got 2 games tonight. We'll talk about them as well as the last night's games, which they were some of the best games that I've watched so far in these playoffs. Denver really showing up now after losing Michael Malone very late in the season. 3 games left to go in the regular season. David Adelman has done a phenomenal job so far. But let's get into our first topic of tonight's show, which is...
Sure, the Pacers. They face off against the Cavs for Game 2 tonight. At 7 p.m. on TNT, we'll be watching. The Pacers captured Game 1 and a 121-112 win over the Cavs, which is a little surprising to me, but Pacers look good. What do you think, Nate? What are the chances the Pacers can go up 2-0 and claim this series?
I think very, very high. In fact, I'm taking the Pacers to actually upset the Cleveland Cavaliers and actually take this series over. Because we have to remember, last year they were in the conference finals against the Boston Celtics. And then they got banged up and they weren't good anymore, and then they fell apart and then ended up losing, and the Celtics took over and ended up winning the NBA Finals last year. But this is a very, very good team. It's a shifty team. Yesterday, or was it over the weekend, Sunday, they shot 52.8% from 3. Meanwhile, the Cavaliers shot a pitiful 23.7% from 3. The Pacers shot 53% from the floor. Meanwhile, the Cavs, they shot decently from the floor at 45.9. They dominated in the paint, the Cavs did. 70 points to 38. They dominated in second chance points, 21-4. In fact, the Pacers turned the ball over 17 times, and the Cavs scored 22 points off those turnovers. But it didn't matter, because when you make 19 three-pointers and your opponent only makes 9, more times than not, you're probably going to win the game. Indiana, though, their whole style is built on speed and balance offensively. We saw last year and the year before, their offensive rating is sky high, and that's kind of the way that they've been playing. If they could outpace you, you're going to probably lose. That was one of the issues with the New York Knicks. Now, the Knicks ended up getting hurt, but the transition offense that the Pacers had against them really, really cost them. But this year, they're top 10 in points per game, and also offensive rating. Haliburton is being a tremendous ball handler, distributing the ball at a very high level. 22 points, 13 assists in Game 1. I think he's going to be an incredible X factor this one, because remember, he's had games where he can't shoot anywhere close to what he normally can. In this one, he shot 9 of 15 from the floor, which is perfectly fine for a team when your starters, each of them, have double-digit points, and coming off the bench, you have someone else that drops 11 points. That's perfectly fine. You don't need him to drop 35 points. Miles Turner did a tremendous job defensively. He had, I want to make sure I get this right. He had 3 steals and 2 blocks in Game 1, and also was the leading rebounder in Game 1. He scored 13 points to go along with that. He had a double-double in this game. If you could have that from your big man, I mean, Think about some of the teams that desperately need that type of big man. The Warriors need it. They're a playoff team. The Knicks desperately need another big man. Well, guess what? And off the bench, I should say, because I think Mitch Robinson, I said this probably 2 years ago, Mitch Robinson ain't the guy. If the Knicks had a Miles Turner, they're starting or coming off the bench, wherever you want to put him, wouldn't he be a great choice on the offensive side and the defensive side when Mitch Robinson coming off the bench could do nothing offensively? That would be good for them. But I think this says way more about the Cleveland Cavaliers because Donovan Mitchell, while he did score 33 points, it was on 30 shots, and he went 1 of 11 from 3. That's way too many shots. That is absolutely way too many shots. In fact, I know the Pacers won the first quarter big time, but the Cavs actually came back and won the second quarter pretty decently. But my concern is with Game 2, especially, and I am picking the Pacers to sweep the Cavs at home, heading to Indiana for Game 3. I am taking the Pacers in this one. It's strictly because some of the big-time starters for the Cavaliers are going to be banged up or not anywhere close to 100%. Darius Garland, he's dealing with a sprained big toe. He's missed the last 3 games. Will he be out there? He ran on a treadmill, but he did not participate in shoot-around. Evan Mobley, I believe he's the Defensive Player of the Year this year. He did not participate in the shoot-around. He suffered a sprained left ankle in Game 1. What about DeAndre Hunter? He was an insane piece defensively this year, coming from a trade during the trade deadline from Atlanta. He did not participate in shoot-around as well. He suffered a sprained right thumb in Game 1. So they're some of the big-time guys, and DeAndre Hunter does come off the bench, but some of their big key players, both on the offensive side and the defensive side, are not fully healthy. And also, it looked like that Donovan Mitchell was limping in the game. He said he'll be perfectly fine to go. But if I'm the Pacers, I have to capitalize on this. I made a money line bet about 2 p.m. this afternoon when I started to hear that it seems like the Cavs starters, or some of them, are not going to be 100%. I'm taking the Pacers in this one. It was an 8-point spread this game was. It moved up to 8 at least on FanDuel here. But I'm 100% taking the Pacers in Game 2. I think they're the faster team. They play with a tremendous pace. They play with a high shot volume. And if they get going from 3, look out, because this team, with the way they play, their style of play, and the way they can balance it offensively and defensively, you get the 3 going, I think the Pacers are looking like a very unstoppable team.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think Pacers is a great name for this team because it's all about pace with them. And Rick Carlisle said it best. He said for Game 1, he said, we had an exceptionally good shot-making night, but the key word is aggression. We've got to be in attack mode to beat this team. All 5 Indiana starters in double figures. As you say, the balanced scoring is very important for them, and they had it. I'll go into some of the stats here in a minute. Haliburton, his peers rate him as the most overrated player in the NBA. Well, last night, or the other night, in this game, he was really a key for the Pacers and an outstanding player in the game with his 22 points, 13 assists. He had a key three-pointer near the end of the game that put them up. He blocked it. Actually, he had a key three-pointer that led to a 15-4 run, and then he had he blocked a three-point attempt by Strus with only 2:12 left that led to a layup and a 10-point lead for the Pacers. And his assists led to 34 points, including 8 three-pointers. So that guy is critical to this game, and he was playing great. I would say that Kenny Atkinson, he's worried about Indiana's pace coming into this series, and he said, besides struggling with Indiana's pace, Cleveland was done in by poor three-point shooting. The Cavs were second in the NBA in the regular season with 15.9 threes per game, but only 9 for 38, 23.7%. The second worst of the season shooting last night, the other night. Looking at some of the stats here, I think the Indiana's Carlisle managing the team extremely well, managing the minutes of the starters. They averaged 33 minutes. I mean, how do we see that very often? I mean, we watch the Knicks a lot. They're all over 40 minutes a game. And 33 minutes a game. And the starters all in double digits with Siakam, 17 points, Nesmith, 17 points, Turner, 13 points. Nebhard, 23 points, and Haliburton, 22 points. And the bench, another 29 points. But interestingly, the bench on the plus-minus was a minus 23. So that could be an opportunity for the for the Cavaliers going forward. And on their side, the scoring was not as balanced, but their minutes were even less, 30 minutes per starter. They got to get more minutes for the starters, particularly Donovan Mitchell, 34 minutes. Jared Allen, only 30 minutes. Evan Mobley, 36 minutes, but he got hurt. The bench, they were led by Ty Jerome. He had 21 points. The bench had 34 points to Indiana's 29, and they were plus 19 out on the floor there. So that could be a key for the Cavs, maybe to get back in this. I think the Pacers have a very good chance to win Game 2. I get 4 reasons. Cavs have 2 All-Stars and a key reserve questionable for Game 2. Darius Garland, that's 18.9 points
He's
a
officially
game.
out.
He's officially out. Sprained big toe. It's just be the 4th game he's missed now with that injury. It must be very painful. But that's given up almost 19 points a game. If you'd had him in there the other night, who knows? They might have won the game. You have Evan Mobley, 16.4 points a game, sprained ankle.
He's officially out.
He's officially out as well. There you go. That's 25. That's 35 points from your 2 All-Star starters that won't be out on the floor tonight. DeAndre Hunter, 14, almost 15 points a game.
He's officially out.
He's officially out. He's got a dislocated thumb. I don't know how he's going to be able to play. I mean, that's got to be extremely painful. So that's 50 points right there from those guys. They generally average, and they're not going to be there. These injuries are even bigger, I think, considering that the Cavs have rallied and were leading by 1 point when Mobley and Hunter got hurt. They got hurt actually one play right after the other, and they were leading the game at that point, and then it kind of fell apart for them. So that's point number 1, and I think that makes the Pacers a prohibitive favorite here because of those injuries. The Cavs have been having trouble with the Pacers' pace, as I mentioned, which Atkinson was worried about coming into the series. And I mentioned Rick Carlisle said the Pacers have to continue to be to attack, being in the attack mode to beat the Cavs. Number 3, the Cavs having a problem shooting the ball against the Pacers. 23.7% from 3, only 9 of 38, as you mentioned, and a 30-point differential compared to the Pacers' 19 for 36 of 52.8%. Number 4, I think the Pacers have stolen the home court advantage and have a great chance in Game 2. I think for the Cavs to win, I don't really see how they can do it, but get at least Garland and Mobley back, that isn't going to happen. More minutes for the starters, who've averaged just 30 in Game 1, with Mitchell at 34 minutes. He's going to have to play big minutes tonight. Improve the three-point shooting, particularly Mitchell, is 1 for 11. Control Haliburton, who killed them. 32 points, 13 assists, 3 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Continue to be productive in the paint. They were plus 32 in Game 1. That's a plus for them with 70 points. Defend the Pacers' three-point shot better. I mean, 19 for 36, 52.8%, 57 points on threes. Got to do better than that.
All right, well, let's get into our next topic of today's show.
Okay, so topic 2, the Knicks stunned the Celtics. We were watching that game. A 108-105 overtime victory. The Celtics missed 45 three-pointers in their loss. That's an NBA record in playoffs. So, Nate, should the Celtics be worried after dropping Game 1 to the Knicks?
I would love to say yes, because I actually did call this game. If you remember on Friday's show, I said that if the Knicks were going to win a game, my brother John, who came on the show on Friday, said that it would be when the Knicks were down 3-0, they would finally capture Game 4. And I said, no, it's going to be Game 1. Because the Celtics coming off massive rest. They're playing at home, which this season and probably over the history of the Jason Tatum era, or at least probably the past 3 seasons, the Celtics have been a much better road team than they have been a home team. So I said if the Knicks are going to capture a game, it would be Game 1. Lo and behold, the Knicks, after being down 0-4 on the regular season series, they capture Game 1 in Boston, and they get this overtime victory. Jalen Brunson, another great playoff performance for him. OG Anunoby shot the lights out of the ball, 6 of 11 from 3. Deuce McBride, now here's my concern. We've already seen this story been written. Deuce McBride, he has a 20-point game off the bench when he's playing the Philadelphia 76ers. But then against like the Indiana Pacers, when they need him to score another 20 points, he shoots like 4 of 11 and he can't score anything really. He scored 11 points off the bench. So it's a perfectly fine performance from him off the bench. Just I wouldn't rely on it that much. Josh Hart and Cat both had double-doubles in this game. But this is a classic Jason Tatum game. I'm not surprised at all that Jason Tatum played this poorly. And obviously everybody, and I think rightfully so, because we claim that Jason Tatum is the face of the Boston Celtics and he's player A. What about the former finals MVP in Jalen Brown? How about we talk about his performance as well? Because he went 7 of 20 from the floor and 1 of 10 from 3. I'm pretty sure his first 3 was in the fourth quarter, or it might have been overtime. But that's from your former finals MVP who just got the Supermax deal. So can we also talk about his performance? I know everybody wants to rip on Jason Tatum, and rightfully so. He kept chucking up threes late in the game. But you trust your number one guy. What about Jalen Brown being basically 1B, I would say? What about him? Can we talk about his performance, please? And here's what I really think. Now, the way that you take a look at what happened in this game, it's now kind of even playing field. Because one of the things that everybody praises the Celtics for is their depth. They have incredible depth. Well, now Porzingis goes out with a mysterious illness, supposedly. Hauser gets hurt very early in the game. He only played 4 minutes. Porzingis played 13. So now it's kind of even. So we'll really see if the Knicks can capitalize, and if Hauser can't go, and Porzingis is not healthy enough to go for game 2. We'll really see what this Knicks team can do on a consistent level here. But I'm not surprised at all. In fact, and this is where I rip into Jason Tatum a little bit. I think that everybody wants a face of the league. Well, can Jason Tatum be the face of the league? He's an MVP candidate, isn't he? Shouldn't he? Well, these are his numbers in game 1 of his entire career. 23 points, 8.8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 46% from the floor, and 33% from 3. Okay, well, what about games 2 to 7? How does he do for the rest of the series? His numbers, minus the points, actually decrease. So he increases his production when it comes to points per game. His rebounds drop by 1. His assists increase by 0.4. So, excuse me. His field goal percentage drops 3 points. His three-point percentage drops a point. So he never takes that next step. We've seen Jalen Brunson go from being like a 25-a-night guy to scoring over 30 in the playoffs. We've seen these tremendous players. I mean, Luka Doncic, I believe, is top 4 or top 5 in playoff points per game in NBA history. He might even be top 3. But we see these players take that next step when they enter the playoffs. Steph Curry becomes a god in the playoffs where he's shooting lights out. He scores 6 threes a game. Look at games 4 to 6 in the NBA Finals in 2022 against the Celtics. He separates himself. When will Jason Tatum do that? We've seen him put up a 50-point game 6 game. We've seen him have these games. What about the consistency? Because those are the games 2 to 7 over his entire career. So if we want to claim that Jason Tatum is a bona fide superstar and he should be the number one option for the Boston Celtics, well, where is that increase where we could say, okay, he flips a switch in the playoffs? Because what the data has shown over Jason Tatum's career is he's just consistently a really good player. Can we call it great? I don't know if I would call that great. I mean, hell, Jamal Murray is taking it to a whole nother level in the playoffs. Aaron Gordon is taking it to a whole nother level in the playoffs. Like, we could see the opposite where James Harden crumbles in the playoffs. Joel Embiid crumbles in the playoffs. Jason Tatum isn't crumbling. He's just not performing the same way. But all around, is this a weird, sort of strange game for the Boston Celtics with missed 45 threes? I would like to say yes, but 63-point attempts is not the most they've shot all season. So I can't say the volume of threes they shot is weird, no. But if we're talking about them only making 25% of the threes, sure. But then I could also say, well, the Knicks only made 17 of 31 from the free throw line. That's weird. What team do you see consistently shoot 54.8% from the free throw line? I don't. I would also say, on top of it, just to wrap up my point here, Mikal Bridges had a poor shooting night. Mikal Bridges was one of the guys they brought over to help them beat this exact team that they're up against. But this is something that maybe some players don't fully transition to if they're shooting poorly. How do you contribute in other stages of the game, other phases of the game? When Mikal Bridges late, he came up massively defensively and actually stopped Jason Tatum from taking that last-second shot to potentially allow the Celtics to tie it in overtime and extend it. He got the steal. He sealed the game for the New York Knicks in order to take Game 1. So all around, the Knicks played great. I just will not expect them to go into Game 2 unless Kristaps Porzingis and Sam Hauser are out. If the Knicks can maintain this similar level of play, I will give them a shot. I still take the Celtics in 6, and I think it's great that the Knicks could even get to 6 games, but I do think that the Knicks can cause a bit of a ruckus if Porzingis and Hauser are both out in Game 2.
Okay, I agree with a lot of what you said. I do think that one of the keys in this game was the Knicks' defense. And Tom Thibodeau had a new strategy. He had them switching on the screens, and he had Anunoby and Bridges playing excellent defense in this game, and it showed up. And I think that had a lot to do with the Celtics settling for wild three-point shots, not being able to get the ball inside down low. And I think the Knicks are very lucky that Porzingis is ill, because he didn't play well in the first half. He didn't feel well. He didn't play at all in the second half. I think if he gets back to feeling better, then that's going to make a huge difference here. But getting back to some of my observations here in this game, Brunson, I think they came into this game thinking, wow, we haven't beaten the Celtics at all this season. Brunson said, we just keep telling each other to keep believing, just keep fighting and sticking together and keep chipping away. The Celtics, as you mentioned, an NBA playoff record 45 missed three-pointers to blow the game. They appeared to have in control. I think Thibodeau's defense had a lot to do with that. Drew Holiday returned to the game. He had a strained hamstring. He missed the final 3 games of the first round series. He finished with 16 points in 39 minutes. I think we'll be hearing more from him. And Porzingis, only 13 minutes, didn't score. He averages 20 points a game, and he didn't score a point. That would have made a huge difference in this game. He just couldn't be out there. I think Mazzulla said that missing Porzingis impacted the Celtics' approach. It impacted the game with his ability on both ends of the floor. He's not making an excuse for that. But he said, but we have plenty of opportunities. Hopefully he's ready for Game 2. Celtics finished 15 for 16 on three-pointers. Of the 49 shots they took in the second half, and overtime 37 with three-pointers. You're not going to win that way, and that's the wrong approach, particularly when another team is rallying, coming back from a 20-point deficit. You settle for three-pointers all the time. That's and long rebounds to go to the other team just sets them up for a nice run, and that's what happened. After leading 75-55 midway through the third quarter, the Knicks chipped away. They were 84-75 entering the final period. Then they went, and thanks to that 29 run that they went on. It was an exciting game. It was fun to watch. You look at the stats, I think that plays to the Celtics' favor for Game 2 in a lot of ways. The Knicks' minutes, this knocked them out last year, averaging 43 minutes per starter in this game, with Bridges playing 51 minutes in this game. That's kind of unheard of. Anunoby, 46 minutes. Brunson, 44 minutes, and Hart, 45 minutes. Those are big minutes. The Celtics, on the other hand, 37 minutes average per starter, but Brown played 45 and Derek White 44, Tatum 44. So they played some big minutes too. And Al Horford, 34 minutes. That's a lot of minutes for him, given his age. But he had to sub for Porzingis, who only played 13 minutes and went out with the illness. You look at the bench, scoring the Knicks 14 points off the bench. We've talked about that bench being weak. They were -2 on the plus-minus for the bench players. They had 11 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson, critical of him, but in 21 minutes he did have he was +13. He contributed 7 rebounds. He only had 3 points, but +13 when he was on the floor. So he was playing good defense, and that's Thibodeau, I think, had a big impact with the defensive scheme in this game. The Celtics bench, they had 24 points as we'd expect, but they were -13 in the plus-minus. They did have 15 rebounds off the bench, big points, minutes for Horford, as we said, with 7 rebounds. He had 7 points. Looking at the team stats, you look at the Knicks, they were +6 on the three-pointers, even though the Celtics were abysmal at 15 for 60. The Knicks, and they scored 15 three-pointers, and the Knicks scored 17. So there's only 2 difference there, 6-point difference. On the free throws, the Knicks were -5. On the rebounds, they were -10. They were +1 on assists, +6 on steals, and that speaks to the defense. So, it was a very, very close game. I think there's always a reason for every team to be worried about in the playoffs, but I still think the Celtics have the upper hand for 4 reasons. They were rusty. They didn't play in 6 days, which showed up in the shooting stats, and 35.1% from the floor to the Knicks 42.5, 25% from 3 to the Knicks 45.9. They were overconfident, I think, and lost their focus after building a 20-point lead early in the third quarter. I think they lost their focus. They thought, hey, we're going to cruise to victory here. The Knicks started chipping away, and then they got out of control. I think they got to be careful. They can't let that happen again. They shot way too many threes in the second half, 37 of 49 shots for threes. They need to be more aggressive in the paint. They missed Porzingis, who was ill. It's a concern if he can't play in Game 2. His scoring averaged 19.6 per game. They missed that big time. I think they can take some comfort that despite the terrible three-point shooting and that not having Porzingis, they went to overtime and they only lost by 3 points. I think Game 2 is a must-win for the Celtics.
Here's my question to you. Are you mad with Mazzulla saying that we have to live and die by the 3? Because he had no issue with taking 63s. Do you think that that's a problem?
I do, a little bit.
Do you think it's uncharacteristic for them to shoot this many threes?
No, they do it. They do shoot it, but they come back with better than 25% success rate. That was the key problem here.
Well, nearly half the games that they played in, they shot 50 or more threes. They shot actually on average 48 threes per game. Their average distance just on jump shots alone is 17 feet.
Yeah, but I think
that's one step behind the free throw line. And by the way, you said about driving to the paint more. They are dead last in 2-point. The percentage of shots that they take, they're dead last in 2-point percentage because they don't take any 2-pointers. They're dead last in layups attempted. So you're saying, why don't they do this? Why don't they drive more? Why don't they kick it? That they don't do that. That's not who they do. That's not what they do. That's not their strategy. That'll never be their strategy. That might have been Ime Udoka's strategy, but as soon as Mazzulla came in there, it was 3. Over 53% of all the shots they took the entire season have been 3-pointers. So okay. you're asking them to try to do something that they just philosophically do not do.
Well, they
so
could do
I would not expect Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, or Drew Holiday, or Peyton Pritchard, or Derek White to all of a sudden be driving and kicking and driving and laying the ball in, because that's not what they do. They shoot the 3 more than anybody in the NBA. The next highest team, percentage of field goal attempts wise, 53.6 for the Celtics. The Golden State Warriors are 46.9%. So it's a 7 percentage point difference between them and the next team. So it's not going to happen.
Okay, well, I think they should give it some consideration because the points in the paint were about even last night, and the Celtics certainly could muscle the New York Knicks down low. Who's going to? Okay, so right now, who's going to outmuscle Mitchell Robinson? Al Horford's too old. Well, Mitchell Robinson's a bench player, so on the starting 5.
Okay,
I think
so
Towns,
who's going to body down
KP? I think
he's not going to be there.
How do you know?
Because this same illness was mysterious. He missed, 8, 9 games? He missed a couple weeks because of this mysterious illness. So if it's that again, who's there?
That would be a problem for them if Porzingis can't play.
My point.
But I said
they're not going to drive.
No, but I said that already. I said if Porzingis is not there, that could be it's a concern. It's a serious concern. And Mazzulla said
so they're going to just keep doing the same thing that they've been doing
that didn't
in this
work.
game.
That didn't work.
But
if they can hit, if they shoot 63s and they shoot 40% from 3, then they're going to win big.
Well,
but they shot 25%. So maybe it was Russ. I don't know. Maybe I think it was overconfidence. I think they got up by 20, and they lost their focus. They lost their mojo, and the Knicks didn't give up. They give them credit. They hung in there and they kept going. They kept chipping away, and the clutch player of the year was clutch again. And the Celtics better watch out, or they could be in trouble.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I wasn't shocked by anything that happens, because the whole thing about the Celtics is live and die by the three. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see another 63-point attempt game for the Boston Celtics. In fact, they shot 61 threes against the New York Knicks team on opening day. So they did this exact strategy against the exact same team to start the season off.
Do you think they'll be 25% from three the next game?
It wouldn't surprise me again if they shoot between 30 and 20% from three in one of these upcoming games. It would not surprise me at all. Because I do think OG and Mikal, they're going to get in the face of a Derek White or a Jason Tatum or a Jalen Brown, and they're going to need to alter what they do philosophically in order to have a shot against the Knicks if the Knicks just play a consistent level. Because you're going to live and die by the three. That's your philosophy. That's great. But it also will put you in a precarious situation where if you can't drive against this team and you can't hit your three, they don't shoot mid-range. So what are you going to do? That's where I think the Knicks could take over, because they have Brunson who could score at will. You have Karl-Anthony Towns who offensively, you might not like his physicality defensively, but offensively he drives in and he generates a lot of contact. He could barrel through you if he really wants to. You have Mikal Bridges who could all of a sudden shoot fadeaway threes twice in one game. He could shoot a very clutch level here. You have players on the Knicks who can come up big. What the Celtics right now have to do is you have to play the long game. That's the only way you're going to beat them now, I think. Because I do think we'll see another game like this. It might be 27%. It may be 30%. But I believe we are going to see another game, and especially from Jason Tatum. We might see two more of these Jason Tatum games. Who knows? But I don't think the blame can go primarily on Jason Tatum, because the former Finals MVP shot 1 of 10 from three. But nobody has an issue with that. Everyone's focused on who should be the 1A of the Boston Celtics. I think it's a little bit unfair criticism for a guy who, by the way, never gets the respect of being a contender for face of the league, never gets a serious consideration for MVP, never got a serious consideration for Finals MVP. That's why some people might call Jason Tatum underrated in some aspects, because he doesn't get the attention that he probably should have on the best team in the NBA.
Well, I think they did win the championship last year. They are the defending champions. So.
But you're missing my point. Because it's Jalen Brown who won the Finals MVP.
They did have a gentleman's sweep against the Magic, and they sat for a long time. They were rusty. They're coming back now. They weren't at full strength last night. If they can be at full strength and they can keep their focus, then I think they win game 2. But I do think one thing that hasn't been talked about as much as it should be is Thibodeau's defensive strategy against them, which he's changed from what it was in the regular season, switching on the screens and having Anunoby and Bridges just play the lights out on the wings.
Well, that was their whole strategy. This current rendition of the Knicks is just to beat the Boston Celtics. That's what this roster was built for. That's basically just what it is. Because you got two incredible wing players. You paid OG and you traded for Mikal Bridges. The reason you did that was to stop the wings of Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum.
And they did it last night.
Exactly. But here's my issue with what you said about they weren't at full strength. Last postseason, Kristaps Porzingis got hurt and missed massive amounts of time in the playoffs. Now, they didn't play the Knicks, but they were still able to take care of basically everybody in the playoffs last year without Porzingis.
Well, they had Hauser. He played quite a bit last year in the playoffs, so he wasn't there last night.
We're putting on Hauser. I don't know if the Celtics are going to be, in ideal circumstances, if we're really saying if Hauser's gone, the Celtics are in danger. I do think he's a massive help, but if that's what we're saying,
I know. I don't
Boston
think,
fans
I'm
go
not
for the
saying
hills.
that, but I do think that Porzingis is an important piece, and they need to get him back.
I absolutely don't disagree with that. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up for the show, wow, the Nuggets shock the Thunder. We'll talk about that as well as tonight's game. The Bay heads to Minnesota to face off against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll talk about that game and preview it and break it down right after this break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of tonight's show.
Okay, the Thunder fall to the Nuggets after Chet Holmgren missed 2 free throws, which led into an Aaron Gordon game-winning 3 with 2.8 seconds left. Nate, how surprising was Denver's win on the road against OKC?
It's not as surprising as I think a lot of people might have thought it was. But that's only because I said this a couple weeks ago on the show where I don't think anybody legitimately fears Oklahoma City because one of their big things was SGA and the free throws and him getting to the line and putting the other team in foul trouble. And in the playoffs, we're seeing a level of physicality that people are saying we have to tone it down after everybody was talking about we need them to play with more energy, more physicality. We want it to be more like 90s basketball. We're getting it that way basically right now. And people are saying, well, let's tone down the physicality. This is a little too much. So I find that interesting. But I think right now, this series has one overarching message for however many games the series goes to. This series will prove who the real MVP is. Because this is a beautiful matchup. I don't know how many times in NBA history we could see the number 1 and number 2 MVP candidate face off against one another in the playoffs. Now, obviously, ethically, the votes are already in, I believe, for the MVP. So we'll find out who the NBA MVP is. And the playoffs won't count for this. But regardless, if SGA wins the MVP, but Jokic outperforms him massively, this will be an Embiid-Jokic situation where we say, okay, Embiid won it, but Jokic actually was the most valuable player in the NBA. So for me, this series is going to really determine who the actual MVP is. Because we just saw Jokic do something that apparently only 4 other players in NBA history have ever done. And that's a 40-25 game. In this case, 20-40, it was 40, was it 41, 42, 22, and 6 for Jokic. But this is the company that he just put himself with. 40-point games with 20 rebounds and 5+ assists. It was Wilt Chamberlain twice in 1962 and 67, and then Shaq in 01, Giannis in 2022, and then Jokic last night versus Oklahoma City. So we're seeing Jokic again do historical things. But I think right now, the Nuggets are playing on a completely different level that they were in the regular season. This game was actually pretty good defensively. Now, obviously, 121 points now in these playoffs where we're seeing teams put up double-digit games where in most of the NBA you could put up 130 and it's nobody's business. But I would say that this is a relatively good defensive game, especially late in the game. But offensively, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown, and Nikola Jokic all had double-doubles. Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, he had 18 points off the bench, and he's actually been the best transition player for the Denver Nuggets. And I'm gonna give Russ all of his flowers. Again, this is another episode of the Harvey Hour, another topic talking about the Nuggets where I have to give Russell Westbrook his flowers, but he made probably the smartest play we've ever seen Russell Westbrook make as of late. It's because when Chet Holmgren missed the 2 free throws, and then, by the way, the weird rebound situation, as soon as he missed it, it feels like anybody could have gone for the rebound, especially the Thunder, and secured it, which would have screwed over the Denver Nuggets. But instead, the Nuggets, I think Christian Brown got the rebound there, but Christian Brown got the rebound after being aware that nobody was actually going for it, passed it up to Russell Westbrook, who then, instead of driving and trying to create contact and get a foul called on him, probably some crazy layup, He instead found Aaron Gordon for the wide open three, and then Aaron Gordon sunk the three. That's a smart Russell Westbrook play. I think if he was on the Lakers, I think if he was on the Los Angeles Clippers, I think if he was on the Houston Rockets or the Washington Wizards, we would have seen a Russ where he would try to drive, generate contact, and try to get the foul call, which in the playoffs you probably won't get. So Russ made the very, very smart play to find the open guy, and I think right now, Aaron Gordon praised him for this. That was probably the smartest play I've ever seen Russ make, because we saw recently of Russ missing a layup, I think, and then doing a stupid late game, he fouls somebody from three, and then the 3 free throws end up having the Nuggets lose that game. He cost them a game, essentially. But I'm also going to give props to David Adelman. This was his 11th game coaching for the Denver Nuggets, and he made an incredibly smart business decision. Because Michael Porter Jr., who's the starter for the Denver Nuggets, he shot 1 of 8. And in the second half, he played all of 8 minutes and 57 seconds. He kept Russ in the game. He played 17 minutes and 45 seconds. He essentially benched Michael Porter Jr. in the second half for Russell Westbrook, and look what happened. It paid off instantly with the Denver Nuggets coming out with this big-time win, with Aaron Gordon hitting the game-winning 3 because of a Russell Westbrook find and assist. And I'm going to say this before I send it over to you. I understand the Oklahoma City Thunder's late-game strategy of like 12 seconds when you're up by 3, we're going to foul. But I thought in this situation, the timing of it was incredibly idiotic because you're up by 3 with 13 seconds left. The fouling takes about a second off anyway. And what you're doing is basically ensuring the game stays between a 3-point game and a 1-point game. And that actually puts pressure on the Oklahoma City Thunder because if the Nuggets hit both free throws, it's a 1-point game. And obviously the Nuggets are going to foul you. So you have the pressure now falls on you to make the free throws, which, as it just turned out to be, Chet Holmgren missed both free throws, which ultimately ended up in a loss for the Thunder after the Aaron Gordon game-winning 3. So I thought that strategy and that time, especially that early, I guess you'd call it, in the fourth quarter, 13 seconds left. If it was 7 seconds, 8 seconds, then maybe I could agree with you. But it was with 13 seconds left. That takes a second and a half to foul him. I thought the timing was bad. I understand the philosophy behind fouling late because they can't tie it up and they can't win it through with free throws. But I thought it was just bad timing at that point in the game because you're ensuring it's still a one-possession game. That's basically what you're doing. Instead of letting the Nuggets drain out clock and try to hit a crazy 3 to tie the game, instead you're fouling to make it either a 3-point game or a 1-point game, and then the pressure goes back on you to make the free throws, which Chet Holmgren didn't do. So I thought the strategy was bad late. I thought clock management was poor. But all around, I thought the Nuggets played a beautiful brand of basketball. I think they played to near perfection. Jokic, he's amongst, I'll bring up the graph again. Jokic is among company of Shaq, Giannis, and Wilt Chamberlain for playoff performances. I mean, he should be the MVP. And this series is going to prove who actually deserves it because, like I said, I don't know how many times we could see the top 2 MVP candidates go at it in a playoff series. But I think it's safe to say that this series is going to prove who the real MVP is.
I generally agree with everything you've said, particularly the strategy of fouling when you have the lead, and particularly the last five. They did it twice right at the end, and the Nuggets, being the team they are, veterans and champions a couple of years ago, hit all 4 of those free throws. I just think that was a very kooky strategy. In terms of surprising it's surprising the Nuggets won. I'm picking the Nuggets to win in either 6 or 7. I like to think it's 6 because I think they have to go to OKC for a 7th game. That could be tough. So I think they're going to win in 6. So I'm not that surprised that they won, but based on how they played in the first half, down by 10, and trailing the whole game basically right up until the end. The win was surprising, and particularly the shot they were down by 1 when Aaron Gordon took a 3. So, getting that 3-pointer was really something. And that's his second time that he's done that in playoff games. So I like that a lot. OKC up by 11 with 4:31 to go. And are one of the best closing teams in the NBA, but fell apart down the stretch against the Nuggets. That strategy by OKC to foul intentionally with the lead Nuggets made all 4 free throws, took total advantage of that. Holmgren missed the 2 free throws at the end with OKC up by 1. Then Gordon drained the 3 with 2.8 seconds left. Russell Westbrook played a big part in this game. He probably had some satisfaction going up against his whole team and having one of the biggest plays in the games, particularly given Michael Porter scored only 2 points in the game. And Russ had 18 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists, one of which was the Gordon's winning 3-point shot. The battle of the MVP candidates, Jokic, I think, came out on top in that battle, and with 42 points, 22 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He had 7 turnovers, and he was plus 10 on the plus minus. Alexander, on the other hand, 33 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 1 turnover, minus 16 on the plus minus. So that was interesting. As I said, Aaron Gordon now has 2 last-second game winners in playoffs. Edelman called him the soul of the Nuggets. I tend to agree with that. OKC's bench outplayed the Nuggets despite Russell Westbrook essentially being a starter with Porter playing so poorly. The plus-minus for the Nuggets, minus 28. Plus-minus for OKC, plus 45 on the bench. Alex Caruso had a lot to do with that. He had a nice game, 20 points, 6 assists, 5 steals, 2 blocks for OKC. You might argue OKC was rusty, given more than a week off since sweeping Memphis. But that kooky strategy, again, I have to bring it up one more time, by OKC's coach, Mark Daigneault, of fouling the Nuggets very late in the game when they had the lead, was a head-scratcher for me. I mean, with basically 12 seconds left in the game, the OKC up by 3, the Nuggets taking the ball out with no timeouts left, and, they're up by 3. They got to go the full length of the court and make a shot just to tie the game with all that little amount of time left. Instead, instant foul, saves it, only a second or so comes off the clock. They get both free throws. Now it's a 1-point game. Nuggets very sharp. Foul Holmgren on the next play. He misses both. Even if he made 2, it's still it would have given the Nuggets a chance to tie with a 3. Nuggets drive right down the court. No timeouts. Russell Westbrook, the nice pass to Gordon. 3. I think they'll be thinking about that for a long time. The coach said, I don't think it made that much difference in the game. Baloney. I don't buy that. That's a bad strategy. I'm sure some of the leadership in the OKC had a word with him about that.
Well, one thing about that, though, the Nuggets were without timeouts at that point, and Jokic was on the bench during one of those fouls. So the repeating fouling actually let Jokic come back into the game. Yeah. And which actually, if you think about it, the Knicks were in that similar situation with Brunson on the bench. It was Brunson and somebody else. They couldn't get the guys back in the game because it was just missed shot rebound. They had no time, or they might have had a timeout or 2, but Tom Thibodeau didn't call it, and there was no dead ball. So in this case, the Nuggets were without timeouts. Jokic is sitting on the bench waiting, and guess what? Fouling him, just let him come right back in the game.
Yeah, and I think this, when you look at the team stats in this game, that strategy plays an even bigger role because you look at this. Well, we're going to go through some of the stats here. It's hard to see how the Nuggets won this game. You look at the 3 points, right? The OKC is plus 15 points on 3-pointers. The Nuggets were 10 of 32, and the Nuggets 15 of 40. I'm sorry, the OKC 15 of 43. They were plus 7, the Nuggets, on free throws. And that was a big factor.
I can tell you one right now. It's the rebounds.
Yeah, the plus 20.
Plus 20.
Plus 20 on rebounds.
And plus 8 on the offensive boards.
Yeah, and they were minus 9 on assists, minus 6 on steals, minus 6 on blocks, minus 18 on turnover points, minus 3 on points in the paint, and plus 8 on fouls. How'd they win the game? It was that strategy that let them right back into the game, gave them a chance at the end, and they capitalized on it. You don't do that to a team who has players that have won a championship 2 years ago and know how to play down the stretch in a close game.
Well, I would say that it's also the +7 on the free throw line because those are free points.
Yeah.
And you were banking on the Nuggets missing a free throw. That's what you were hoping for. They would miss a free throw.
Yeah. Those guys don't miss.
But here's the thing. Now that they were making them, you kept doing it. Now the pressure falls on you because now you have to make the free throw to make it a 3-point game.
It's a terrible strategy. It's crazy.
It didn't make it like
Kooky strategy.
If it was at 7 seconds left in the game, 8 seconds, I think you will though.
Yeah, well, that guy's stupid enough to do that.
You'll see it again, but you won't see it with 12, 13 seconds left. You'll see it with 7 seconds left in the game because it takes a second half to foul them. If think about it, a second and a half, okay, 13, now you're at 11 and a half seconds. Okay, then guess what? You're at 10 seconds. That's plenty of time to get down the length of the court and take a very high
Maybe they should, if they were going to do it, I don't agree with it, but if they're going to do it, why don't they let him drive down the court, use up 3 seconds and foul him at half court or something,
Right, exactly.
It was crazy.
All right, let's get to our final topic.
All right, the Warriors visit Minnesota for round 2 against the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves gentleman sweep of the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Warriors coming off a hard-fought 7-game series against the Houston Rockets. Who do you think's taking game 1, Minnesota or Golden State?
This was probably, in my opinion, the most difficult matchup to pick because you could take a look at just the size difference and look how well the Timberwolves exploited the Lakers' lack of defense and their lack of true size and true needs of a big man, which, by the way, people are shocked that the Lakers lost against a bigger, more athletic, and stronger team. What was the whole thing about trading for Luka Doncic? You're getting rid of your best big man in Anthony Davis. And now all of a sudden everybody was shocked that the Lakers don't have size. Didn't make a lot of sense amongst the sports heads of the NBA. But when it comes to this game, I'm going to take the Golden State Warriors in the series. I'll probably take them in 6 or 7. I don't know if I'll give them game 1. However, on a more positive side of it, maybe they can win game 1 because they dropped their first one to Minnesota, then won the next 3. They're 3-1 in the regular season series. And the Warriors primarily won off of their elite perimeter shooting and also their pace of play. Well, their perimeter shooting has remained somewhat consistent, but with the acquisition of Jimmy Butler, they actually gained a whole new aspect of their offense that they could utilize at a very high percentage. But the reason why they won 2 out of the 3 of those games is they shot nearly 50% from 3 in games 2 and game 4 against the Timberwolves throughout that regular season series, with Buddy Hield making 7 threes in their first win, and Curry dropped 5 in that same game. So they shot 12 threes amongst the 2 of them, and what did we just see from Buddy Hield? He just dropped 9 threes against the Houston Rockets to take control of that game and win the series. And defensively, during that regular season series, they switched and trapped to make Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards feel a lot of pressure, nervous, commit a lot of turnovers throughout that series. And this was all without Jimmy Butler. They won 3 out of 4, being the significantly shorter team. They're the second shortest team in the NBA, and also without a true big man, and without Jimmy Butler, and a whole aspect of their offense that they're now using. Because in the regular season, they went from being the fewest free throw rate team in the NBA to now what would have been the number 1 free throw rate team in the NBA at nearly 30% free throw rate per field goal attempt. They shoot 28.1 free throws per field goal attempt. Or I guess, 20. Yeah. So the free throw rate is 28%, something like that. I'm not sure the exact description of it. It's free throw rate per field goal attempt. They're 28.1. That's the statistic. I would assume so.
Field goal 28% of the time. It's a extra and 1. Is that what you're saying?
No.
When they make a field goal,
no.
28% of the time it's another.
No.
There's a foul and they shoot a free throw.
No, essentially, it's 1 field goal, 4 field goal attempts, and then 1 free throw. That's what it is. So for every 4 field goal attempts, they shoot 1 free throw to go along with that. That's the free throw rate per field goal attempt.
Well, that's what I said. Basically, that's what I said.
No, you're saying it's an and 1. I'm saying it's
and 1, 28% of the time would be 1 out of every 4.
No, it's
okay?
not. No, it's not an and. It's not
it's the same thing.
It's not an and 1 though. That's what I'm saying. It's a free throw attempt. So 2 free throw attempts, I guess you would call it. I guess they're going to the line 1 time out of every 4 jump
field goal.
Whatever, if you want to call it and 1, you can call it and 1 if you want. I don't really care. But Jimmy Butler adds that level. He adds a defensive level that the Warriors didn't have. And I'll give a lot of credit to Draymond Green. He is, 6'7", and they just want to give Alperen Şengün, who is, 4 or 5 inches taller, and he locked him down, forced him to under 30% from the floor. So if you could do that against Rudy Gobert, who just put up a 20-20 game against the Los Angeles Lakers, made him out to be looking like the Defensive Player of the Year, which I was shocked that he wasn't actually the most overrated player in the NBA because everybody critiques him for having no offense, no jump shot, and he can only rebound and block. I'm surprised he didn't get a higher level of overrated, but I'm a little bit surprised by that. But you add that level to the game, get him in foul trouble, get Jaden McDaniels into some foul trouble, take his whole defensive aspects out of the game, which obviously he'll probably be focused on Steph Curry, which we've seen. You could bully Steph Curry a little bit. It could cause some problems because Steph hasn't had a tremendous game yet. We haven't seen a God game from him in a little while. I think we could see it in one of these early games, and I do think that the matchup will be Anthony Edwards versus Steph Curry, which point guard will turn out to be the better point guard here. But I also think the biggest key matchup is whoever Draymond Green is playing up against. If he could shut down and my guess it'll probably be a big man, and I think it'll be a physicality, the Draymond Green, Rudy Gobert, there's some history there. I'm pretty sure last time we saw these players play, Draymond Green put Rudy Gobert in a headlock. So we'll see. I do think that'll be a key matchup here, but I think Jimmy Butler being out there defensively, he hasn't had a playoff game in a little while. We haven't seen him really knock out the 25, 30-point game where he just lights it up on all aspects of the court since the injury. So we'll see if he can still bring that as an aspect of his game to the Warriors. But I do think that free throws will be a key because, like we just saw in the Nuggets game, that's free points. So if Jimmy Butler could do that, averages 10 to 14 free throws per game, that's 10 to 14 free points for Jimmy Butler essentially. Which then obviously that adds a massive offensive boost for the Warriors. So I don't know if I'm taking them in game one. I guess for the sake of this, they're 6.5-point underdogs. I'll take the Warriors to at least cover. But I will take the Warriors for the series to win in 6 or 7.
Okay, I like the Warriors as well. You look at this, the Warriors have won 38, lost 34 so far. The Timberwolves won 49, lost 33. So they're very close. Why the Timberwolves have a 6.5-point, minus 6.5 in this game, it surprises me a lot. I think you could argue that the Timberwolves represent less of a challenge than the Rockets did to the Warriors, who were the 2 seed. Although the Timberwolves have a more playoff experience than the Rockets did. They went pretty deep in the playoffs last year. This could be yet another game of rest and rust, hurting the Timberwolves' chances in Game 1. The Warriors played their Game 7 on Sunday, and the Timberwolves haven't played since last Wednesday. So far, the teams who played the longer series in the first round here have come out on top in Game 1 of the second series. We've seen it in every game so far, so that favors the Warriors. The Warriors are currently 24-17 on the road, and the Timberwolves are 8-2 in their last 10 at home. Players to watch for the Warriors, to me, is always Curry. He's 24 points a game in the regular season, 5.9 rebounds, 5.7 assists. For the Timberwolves, it's Edwards, 26.8 points a game, 8.4 rebounds, 6.2 assists. For their teams, these two guys lead in points and assists. The rebound leaders, it's Butler, interestingly enough, 6 rebounds a game. That ain't a whole lot. Gobert, 9.8, almost 10 rebounds a game. The Warriors have won 3 of the last 5. You look at the matchups. You got Curry, Hield, Podziemski, Butler, and Green, the starting 5 for the Warriors. I like that starting 5 a lot. I don't know. Do you think Buddy Hield can continue to perform like he did? I mean, he's averaging.
I wouldn't put him in the starting lineup if I'm the Warriors.
I think it's a clever thing to have him in the starting lineup. He's averaging 11 points a game for the season, 2.7 rebounds and 1.4 assists. He's much higher than that in the playoffs, and particularly with the last game he had where he scored over 30 points. Podziemski has had a nice season. He's doing nicely in the playoffs as well. He can hit that 3-point shot. Butler, we know what he can do. He's averaging 18 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4.8 assists. We talked about Curry. Green, the monster out there, only averaging 8 points a game, but the intensity that he brings and his defensive skills against the opposing center almost legendary now. You look at the Timberwolves starting lineup: Conley, Edwards, McDaniels, Randall, Gobert. Conley, a pedestrian 5.6 points a game, 3.4 rebounds, 2.6 assists. Edwards is the big scorer, almost 27 points a game. He's big on the rebounds too, 8 rebounds a game, six assists. So he's got to play big for the Timberwolves to win the series. McDaniels, 17.4 points a game, 6.4 rebounds, 1.2 assists. Randall, here's the big one for me. I watched Julius Randle play a lot over the past 7 or 8 years when he was with the Knicks, and he was nothing in the playoffs. During the regular season, he was big, 23 points a game, 5.2 rebounds, 9.6 assists. We'll be watching in this series to see how Julius Randle plays. My guess is he's not going to do that well. And Gobert, he's the rebounding, he's the force. He only averages 8 points a game, but 10 rebounds. No assists. So I think the matchups favor the Warriors.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, when you win 3-1 without the guy who basically jump-started your whole team post-trade, I guess, All-Star game and also obviously post-trade deadline, and yet you still win 3 out of the 4, and you win in pretty dominating fashion.
Yeah,
the last game they played was a 1-point win.
It'd be even easier.
And by the way, this is the first series, I think, under the Steve Curry administration that the first series that they're not favorites in. The first one.
Really?
And I think that is just because of age, consistency, not great. And Anthony Edwards, he's probably the closest to being the face of the league. Although, and we never even talked about this because this was a big conversation amongst sports media. The face of the league conversation, because it was LeBron, it was Jordan, it was whoever else you want to put in there.
Oh, the Timberwolves are a play-in team, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah, they were. They were behind. They're a seed behind the Warriors.
They're the 6th seed.
They were the 6th seed.
They're the 6th seed. No. But this whole thing about the face of the league, I don't think there needs to be one, in my opinion. I don't think this face of the league thing holds that much weight. Because right now, yeah, you could say LeBron is. Some people could argue Steph Curry is.
The face of the league?
Face of the league. You know how Jordan was the face of the league?
Baby-faced assassin.
You think Steph Curry is the face of the league?
He's the face of the league.
So then who do you think the NBA, for this next generation of stars and superstars, do you think that there is one true face of the league? Because people are saying that it can't be an international player.
You could argue Jokic. But
right, but people say, for some reason, I don't know, people don't like the idea of an international player being the face of the league.
He doesn't look that much like a basket. He never looked like much of a
he's
basketball
like 270
player.
pounds. No, he's not.
He doesn't look like a basketball
puffing
player.
up the court.
I wouldn't think he'd be the face of the league.
But if you're talking about who's just
handsome.
Here's the thing, and I actually kind of meant to say this, but if you were just to say, who's the best basketball player and make that the face of the league, because that's generally what you do.
Jokic.
I would say it's Jokic, but the difference is, it seems like in today's era of basketball, it's the commercials, it's the shoe brand, it's getting your name out there. It's about being on every damn commercial you see on ESPN. But if you're talking about strictly who's the best basketball player, I mean, and again, I've said this previously on the show, and I think that as we see these playoff performances consistently, I don't think that'll be that hot of a take.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jokic is in serious contention for being the best overall center in NBA history.
I agree.
Because can Kareem Abdul-Jabbar pass as well as Jokic? No. Shaq couldn't shoot as well as Jokic. Not a chance.
There's never been a point center in the league, and now we have one.
To the level of Jokic.
Right.
To the level. And I think that point center is what we may be seeing because Victor Wembanyama.
Jokic can handle the ball.
Correct.
He brings the ball up sometimes.
Correct.
Yeah, I would say LeBron was the face of the league for many years. He's kind of, I don't think he's the face of the league anymore.
I think 2015,
Lakers got knocked out in the first round, and he didn't play that well.
The second time, by the way, in LeBron's career.
Doncic, maybe he has a chance of being the face of the league.
I think he's in the next generation conversation.
Yeah.
Because again, and people are saying that, well, an international player can't be the face of the league. First of all, why?
Why is that?
Because
that sounds like discriminatory.
Well, here's why I think that's also stupid. The international players are right now the best players in the NBA. Giannis, Wemby, Jokic, Luka.
Uh-huh.
SGA. He's Canadian. He's not even an American.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So, I mean, who's the best domestic star? Anthony Edwards?
Jason Tatum,
who gets no respect. And I guess, again, it's because, and let's bring up the numbers again, in the biggest moments, he doesn't separate himself. This is game 1, and then games 2 to 7, they're basically the exact same, although he shoots at a lower level.
Jason Tatum's consistently in the top 5 for MVP.
Correct,
candidate.
but there's no separation. I mean, Luke is averaging 30 points a game.
You're saying that a foreign player can't be the face of the league?
I'm not saying that.
In the top 4 or 5, it's mostly foreign players except for Jason Tatum. So
I'm not saying
he's the
that.
face of the league.
And you could also say, and I guess this is a half, Embiid also, because I think he has 2.
He's a foreign player.
Right, but I also think he has an American citizenship. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he does. He has 2 citizenships. But he depends on, I think you would put him more towards the international side of things. But then that would knock out Tatum. Tatum wouldn't be a top 5 player then.
No. Well.
Because you could probably say the top 7 guys are international players. And by the way, I'm not saying that. That's what fans and media is saying. That the NBA.
I personally don't care. I mean,
Neither
it's
do I.
whoever the best player
I
is.
agree.
I don't care where they come from.
I agree.
If they want to be the face of the league and they earn it, then more power to them.
And
But,
if it has to
in
be
my
domestic,
mind, it would be Jokic.
I would agree. I would 1,000% agree. If it's not Jokic, it could be Giannis. It could be Doncic.
I think Jokic doesn't get the MVP. It's in a way, I think it's kind of a ripoff. I mean, and this series is going to prove it. That
was my take.
Yeah.
That was my whole take. All right, just an update on the Pacers series. Cavs up 27-15.
Huh?
Wow. And there is the Pacers are shooting 1 of 8 from 3. The Cavs are shooting 3 of 6 from 3.
There you go.
Interesting. Donovan Mitchell 10 points in the first quarter's not over yet, but 10 points.
He's got to have a big game. They're going to let him play about 45 minutes tonight.
He's played 9 of the 12 minutes so far. So we'll see how this game turns out. I got a bet on Pacers money line, so we'll see. Not looking good right now. Not looking good.
Yeah.
All right,
it's only the first quarter.
That is true. But that does wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. We'll be back on Friday with obviously some more NBA coverage. We'll be talking about these exact same teams again. But yeah, we'll see who wins and who loses a couple of those games. The Boston Celtics one, by the way, an update on Kristaps Porzingis. He is probable for Game 2.
All right.
With an illness. So we'll see what the final injury designation is for that game, but it is probable currently. So we'll talk about that all on Friday. But yeah, make sure you stay tuned in. We'll be back Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts